Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, in this book about Uthman ibn Affan's biography, we learn a lot about his character and his writings. This was a letter he wrote to governors, so I thought you'd find this interesting. This is what he writes: Allah has ordered leaders to be guardians. He has not commanded them to be only the collectors of wealth. So just right there, it's amazing because if you look at the American politicians, they're not guardians at all. They want to defund police, legalize, tax regulate all drugs. They are servants to big pharma. They want to disarm us so that we don't have a right to protect ourselves from cartels, gang members, or even their own malice, right? They're not guarding us at all. They do insider trading. They're deeply corrupt, self-serving, and full of nepotism. They're not guardians whatsoever. They really have enriched themselves. Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, Biden, so many of these politicians. They went into office as public servants and then started stacking up wealth and getting paid off by lobbyists. So here we have more wisdom from Uthman than the politicians we have today, and that is to be guardians of the people. He continues, the early Muslims of this Ummah were created as guardians rather than collectors of wealth. Truly, your leaders are upon the verge of becoming the collectors of wealth rather than the guardians. When that happens, there will be no modesty, trust, or fidelity. No modesty. Now, this word, I'm sure, can be interpreted in a number of ways. But the brothel culture, pimp culture, and the debauchery that the politicians do at their orgy parties, the things they do that get leaked, there's a reason why they call the vice president Hills Up Harris. Let's put it that way. What certain women in politics do to rise to their position, and men, what they have to endure as well, and how they promote some of the worst musicians, like when Joe Biden met with Cardi B, right? When Obama met with certain thug rappers, when they invited them to the White House, you begin to see that they're not promoting good values in terms of modesty. Trust will be violated. Oh yeah. We today don't trust our government. Nobody who has two brain cells should trust the American government, right? Once we know they're not our guardians and they're trying to take away our right to protect ourselves and act as guardians for ourselves, we know that after they've done these horrific lockdowns, all their crimes and atrocities that they do abroad, that them trying to turn that on us is plausible. I mean, governments have genocided their own people many times in the past. Fidelity, I think, is also a very important point here. Not too many people mention fidelity. The most just way of ruling is to look into the Muslims' affairs and their obligations, and then give them their due, and have them give you what they must as well. After that, give the non-Muslim citizens their due, and have them give you what they must. Finally, deal with the enemies you wish to defeat, and seek victory through fidelity. Very potent speech here. Now, the author mentions that Uthman really underlined the governor's duty towards the people, and that it should just be something very serious. It shouldn't just be for the mere collection of wealth, alright? And he wanted to make sure that the governors administered the affairs of the Muslims, and to make sure that the obligatory tax was done, and that their due rights were done, and that the well-being of the Ummah is paramount, and that they should really watch that. He also mentions how the noble values of modesty should be kept intact. He goes further to mention how there is a really deep, significant relationship between the citizens and their ruler, and that if the citizen and the ruler have a mutual goal, they'll become stronger. And that mutual goal should be seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there's a lot of occultists and atheists who exist in America, the secularists. They don't care about seeking the pleasure of God. They only care about seeking the pleasure of themselves. They don't even believe in any type of punishment for their behavior. They think of only this world, and their behavior shows they think only of this world. They don't feel any type of punishment in the hereafter, and they think all the reward is only found here. When you see the Muslim example here, you can think about how people would change their behavior in order to earn paradise. And if you're put in a position of power as a governor, you should think about that. And you should judge justly. Now, he contends here, the author, citizens have to strive to reach this goal to their leader by showing obedience, loyalty, trust, and fidelity to their ruler. I like that because it shows how rebellions that are unjustified cause a lot of chaos. That you should want things to flow smoothly. He also says here, modesty remains a part of their mutual relationships and prevents them from hurting or harming their fellow citizens. So, respect for each other in the community, and then striving to please Allah, and being a good citizen for your nation and for your ruler. He also concluded that the important piece of advice that Uthman was giving is to be faithful to one's contracts, and that it's an important means of winning over the enemy. If you make a deal with the enemy, you follow through. And that it's a noble trait. And that also the leader has to have good military superiority and administrative ability. And that if you want to look further in the books of history, you can see that it's very important for a leader to know that. And yes, I agree, the military superiority is definitely a trait you need. And administration is really important. That it doesn't become blocked by bureaucracy and paper pushing, but rather gets the job done like a machine. A good kind of machine, not just a cog in the machine, right? But again, very unique. What do you think? There's a lot there to think about, and that was a very cool message to the governors, I think.